So in the previous video, I wanted to compare a quality of two legendary cameras which stand side by side on the market of cinematographers, sharing their decisions about which camera is overall more beneficial to get. As you can see, I couldn't decide which one was better for me personally and got both. Later on, it gave me the benefits. You might be questioning why I've got both, but in my case, I use them same often or even combining them in my projects. Exactly in this video, I would like to talk more about low light performance of both of them, and will pick the best camera only out of the low light conditions. But if you'll be interested in more practical information on the set and how I combine them, let me know in the comments before we dive in this video. So in the previous video, my audience was trying to guess which camera was camera 1 and camera 2. So Blackmagic was a camera 1 and GH5s was a camera 2. Congratulations to those who picked the right ones. Definitely, Blackmagic has a wider range and softer image and better performance in highlights. As you can see in the example, highlight area is less damaged on the Blackmagic footage. It is slightly overexposed on both videos and not critical, but obviously Blackmagic gives more chances to recover that area. But let's see how they're gonna perform in low light, where I also used a slow motion in some shots. This is Blackmagic with ProRes 422 HQ 4K UHD 60 FPS footage shot in film dynamic range, also known as log. 6400 ISO, looks pretty noisy. And a Panasonic, same 4K UHD but H.264 8-bit 60 frames per second, same 6400 ISO, and look how surprisingly cleaner it is. The shutter speed set on both to 180 degrees. Definitely, Panasonic shot looks great straight out of the camera, but let's see what happens when it comes to the color grading. From the first look, it seems like they are pretty similar, especially if you look at it with your phone, but once you zoom in, you will notice a skin tone difference. Even in low light, Blackmagic produces a correct color tone, when Panasonic slightly sees it yellowish. Also, since it's an 8-bit footage, you can clearly see the difference of the dynamic range. Lumix footage has a bigger artifact since the gradation of the colors has less stops. It is still possible to work with the footage. Image is still nicely sharp and details are on its place, but still 10-bit gives an advantage when it comes to the color grading. Here is a 4K ProRes 422 HQ 60 FPS versus H.264 10-bit 24 FPS. Again, Panasonic looks much cleaner, but the skin tone is a bit off. But this time we have a wider dynamic range to fix everything. Take some time to have a look at the differences between the shots so we can decide which one you prefer more. In my humble subjective opinion, Blackmagic was definitely not made for extremely low light conditions, but with the right color grading skills, I see no problem recover the footage even at 6400 ISO. The only thing is that you probably won't be able to use it for commercial purposes, since the footage is not clean enough. And to be honest, I've had zero cases where I needed to shoot commercial projects in that dark conditions. And also, I don't really need ND filters for those shootings. Those never require a cinematic image or correct shutter speed. Panasonic does a great job straight out of the camera, even though it was never introduced as a low light camera. Skin tone is the only thing I have to consider about, but overall, no problem with shooting at night with ND or without. Definitely, in case of low light shootings, I would go with GH5s. So both cameras did their best for this test, but at the same time they're pretty different to compare. Blackmagic is more of a cinematic experience with a proper light setups. Pocket Cinema camera for me is more of a studio version of the camera, even though many people including me try to use it as a run and gun. On the other side, Panasonic is a definitely run and gun experience. At the same time, pretty flexible camera for any kind of conditions to shoot in. But still, it doesn't make it perfect at low lights, even though it shows pretty good result at 6400s. It just makes it look better than the Blackmagic this time, but once you set ISO higher, it's not gonna be that easy to work with. In my experience, there was also a budget jobs where I've decided to go with Blackmagic and GH5s, knowing that I will be shooting in extreme low lights, but it was never a problem to successfully finish the project, as long as the client was happy with the results and I was sure that the footage is still usable. The darkest location for the events I've shot in my experience never went above 6400 ISO. Even if it does, that is always possible to fix with the noise reducer. I could mention even more pros and cons of both cameras, considering the price and other specs, but this time it's just a low light comparison and some thoughts from my experience using these two cameras. My choice for the low light would be Panasonic GH5s for keeping details on the image and still having usable footage without applying noise reducers. Let me know what you think and what would be your choice. Before to end this video, I also wanted to mention that the way you use any kind of cameras in any kind of conditions or type of projects is your personal decision and experience. You don't always have to rely on the sensor, lenses, or even my opinion. Keep relying on your editing skills and work out filming and editing like it's a sport. Try out new things and you will satisfy yourself with the good results. Good luck with experiments, thanks for support and see you in the next one.